Welcome, everybody, to the PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I'm here with Rob and Donald. And Rob, you saw something for Buster Only that you wanted to bring up. And go ahead.
Yeah, well, it was a tweet from Max Goodman that he mentioned that Buster Only wrote that the Yankees should consider batting Joey Gallo in the leadoff spot in 2022, encouraging him to focus on getting on base. I can tell you right now, I don't like it at all. I know Gallo is an on-base kind of guy and all that. He hits for low average, but he's a power hitter, and especially in our lineup, I can understand him getting on base in front of guys like Judge and Stanton and whoever else we may add. But you don't bat Joey Gallo leadoff. You don't do it. He's not – when you have a leadoff hitter, that's where you want your high average guy to be. There is still a place in baseball for batting average, and you want that to be, if in a perfect world, it's DJ LeMahieu. If he has a year like he had 2 years ago, that's your leadoff hitter or the guy that's going to offer speed. Now, Gallo might be our fastest guy right now, but that's not a reason to put him in the leadoff spot. His on base is not necessarily through the roof as well. He has some solid on base, but for us last year, he wasn't really that guy. And it just, to me, that is a bad idea. Gallo should be hitting fifth in the lineup at the highest for us, and lowest is probably seventh. I think that's a perfect spot for him because he's always going to be that threat to hit one out of the park, and that's fine. For 1 year, if that's what he is for us, another low average, solid on base and hit 30-plus bombs, that's fine. For one more year, it's no big deal. But leadoff, no. I am against that.
The Yankees really haven't had a true leadoff hitter in a long time. And, part of the other factor that can make a case for Gallo, is the fact that he does have deep at bats. So it gives the middle of the lineup a chance to see, how the pitches are working for that pitcher, what the movement is. So that's something else that can work for that. But no, Gallo is not a leadoff hitter. For the reasons you said. I think we're going to see it's going to be LeMahieu as the leadoff hitter. I think that's going to stay the status quo for now, especially without knowing who's going to be on the roster. So, yeah, no, Gallo is a middle-of-the-line guy type of guy, middle of the lineup. That's it. Yeah, because you can't have a guy that strikes out as often as he does. You don't want to start off the game with an out. So, that's just the truth of it. It's not to knock him as a player, but that's just the reality of him as a player. It's a strikeout or a home run. That's not leadoff material. Donald, your thought?
So I'm just reading through the tweet here, and to defend it, they were saying that he had a 379 OBP with the Rangers at the time that the Yankees acquired him, and so batting him in the number one spot or in the bottom three spots, Boone would rescue him from having to bat with runners in scoring position. He hit 162 with runners on base last year, and then apparently he hit 240 when leading off innings. So that's the reasoning that they gave. I'm sorry, if you're hitting 162 with runners on base, it doesn't really matter where you bat in the lineup. You're never really going to be safe. So I think that he needs to be batting seventh. I think if he's to stay as a Yankee, I think seventh is the perfect spot for him. I don't think he should be batting the middle of the lineup because he strikes out far too much. And I'm also questioning his temperament for the Yankees. He seemed to really kind of melt down once the pressure cooker started to boil. Once we got towards the September, into October, he started to shrink when in front of the glaring New York lights. And even his defense, which is apparently Gold Glove level, that melted down as well. And offensively, he was only going to hit the occasional home run and everything. Every other at bat was a strikeout. So you can't have him lead off. That's not lead off material. You bat him seventh. But really, I would be looking at the market right now for him. I think they should be looking at the market because they don't have any. They surely can't consider signing him long term. So in that case, why lose him for nothing? If you could get some kind of value for him, for somebody that can, do a little bit more than what Gallo does. But it's an interesting discussion. Where do you guys sit on Gallo's future as a Yankee?
I'm not a big, I don't know. I really don't. Because like you were saying, he didn't handle New York very, not that he was terrible, and he had issues with the media. He wasn't fighting with the fan base. He just had a lot of trouble adjusting to the pressure of the postseason Yankees. I think as that got closer is when he started to kind of falter a little bit. Especially when you get a player of his caliber and you've never had that playoff experience. You've never even had to even think about being a playoff team. He's never been close to that. So it's hard to just throw them into that mix with all the expectations of him coming over, especially when you have a fan base that we saw all over social media that he was the guy that they got to get. And I think that coming into this next season, I do think you're going to see a more relaxed and more confident Gallo, but I don't know how much better the numbers are going to be, on the back of the baseball card, type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for now he's going to be here because we just don't have too many options. If they wanted to start Stanton in left field, they would have done it last year. So we know that they're going to be having him DH for the most part next year, playing the outfield from time to time. Gallo is a guy that I would pencil in at center field to start the season over Aaron Hicks. But if they can explore a trade, I mean, best case scenario, you kind of go into the season and do something similar to what Tampa did. And when they traded Adames, I mean, we don't have a prospect coming up, but if in some strange universe, Aaron Hicks stays healthy and is performing and they want to put him in the lineup more often or whatever, and you can play Stanton every day in the outfield and someone gives you an offer you can't refuse for Gallo, there's an Italian pun for you, then you probably take it. But right now, I don't know what the market is for him. It's a 1 year, a guy that really struggled for all things considered. We know what he is, and he was worse than that for us. And to be fair, like you just mentioned, I think that a lot of that pressure might have gotten to him because he was in Texas. The expectations were low. He was the guy in the lineup, and he was performing like it. And then he comes here, and now everyone's like, oh, the Yankees have these three giants in the outfield. They're going to combine for 150 home runs. They're going to do all these great things. And he's got to live up to those expectations almost every time, or else he's going to get booed immediately. And people were booing him within like 2 at-bats. So, I think that it's a little unfair to say that he can't be better this year. I'm not saying anyone's saying that here. I'm just saying there are people out there that are like, he's not going to be anything for us next year. That's unfair because if he comes out next year and hits 220 with a 350 or higher on base and hits 38 home runs, we're not going to really be complaining because that's going to give us run production that we could have really used all of last year. So I think you have to take the good with the bad with a guy like Gallo because there really is no in between. He's really an all or nothing player. And I just don't know what his value would be right now. I think you kind of have to wait and see how he's performing. But if he's performing very well, it's going to make it difficult to move him because then you're weakening your lineup because we don't have that Wander Franco to come up and take his spot from the minor leagues just yet. So it's a good conversation. I just don't see the market for it right now.
It's a good point because apart from just on Dominguez, there's not too much coming through in the outfield in years to come. So there is a depth issue in the outfield. There's certainly a depth issue in center field. So maybe getting rid of Gallo is kind of cutting off your nose and spite your face because you also have to deal with center field. You have to bring in a center fielder unless they rely on Aaron Hicks, but they surely can't do that. So they do need to bring in a center fielder. Then you think, if they also need to go and look for a left fielder as well as a shortstop, and as well as possibly a catcher and certainly a first baseman and a starting pitcher, then they're almost adding too much to all do in this one-off season, which is going to be shortened because we don't really know when we can legally start getting involved in free agency again. So I think you're right. I think that Gallo's going to stay, and also the other side of the coin is also the fact that Brian Cashman has been wanting Joey Gallo for years. This is exactly the kind of player that Brian Cashman loves. He's always been infatuated by big home run hitters. He's certainly new school in terms of the fact that he doesn't care about strikeouts. He likes walks and he likes home runs. And that's what Brian Cashman likes. He's built a team mostly based on that. And Joey Gallo fulfills all of that. You know, I mean, we remember when he hired Eric Chavez, and a lot of the Yankee fans were upset when Eric Chavez said, "Oh, batting average doesn't matter," you know, because he's also, even though he's now a Met, he's also of that philosophy where, home runs is a priority, and walks, getting on base, strikeouts is just, it's fine, it's not a problem. So considering Joey Gallo is everything that the Yankees have kind of wanted, and Brian Cashman has been wanting him for a number of years, I don't see him moving off him so fast. I think that's probably what's going to happen. He's probably going to stay. Yeah,
and the other issue that they have, Aaron Hicks actually would be a good leadoff hitter. Yeah, but it's hard to pencil, have somebody as a leadoff hitter that's not healthy enough to maintain it through the season. And somebody one player that they really need, if they knew what they were doing and they knew how to, really bring these guys up at the right time and give them a fair chance, we might be seeing a lot more out of Florial, who could be a leadoff hitter. A guy that could hit it to the gap, not so much mainly a power hitter, but a contact hitter that's got speed. That's the old school leadoff hitter. Hit it to the gap, get a double, or steal second base. So when the power guys come up, they can just move you around without even having to hit the ball. You can score on 2 outs. So they really need to evaluate and do this properly if they want to construct a lineup that's going to be productive.
That's a good suggestion, Florial, man. I've always liked Florial. He's one of the few coming through that's an outfield.
He's one of my favorite players to mention on this show. I bring him up as often as I can because I think he can do very well on the major league level, but they just don't give him the chance. They only bring him up.
It's frustrating.
They bring him up to fill in, and then they send him back down.
Yeah, he'd be perfect for that leadoff spot, or at least, maybe 1 or 2 because of what he offers with the ability to hit to all sides, and he does run very well. But you mentioned Aaron Hicks. I think a healthy Aaron Hicks at his best, which was 1 year in 2018, I believe, when he actually played like 130 games, that's a leadoff hitter. That's the guy that they, in that article, mentioned that they want Joey Gallo to be, get on base. Aaron Hicks is a low average kind of guy as well, but he's going to get on base a lot, and he can steal a bag. He's a fast guy. You have to be pretty fast to play center field. So healthy Aaron Hicks would make a lot of sense as the leadoff hitter, but that's, again, what we've been talking about for, a year and a half now, is that the guy can't stay healthy. So you really can't rely on him. At best right now, he's got to be a 4th outfielder. You really can't go out there and start him and expect him to play every single day. And I think that's fine if you're playing him every so often, because we're going to see that revolving door with the DH position where Hicks could DH, then Stanton could DH. And I think that's where Gallo is going to come into play and be very effective, because he can play all 3 outfield positions if needed. We know Judge can play center field. We know Stanton can play the corners, and it's going to take a lot of pressure off of everybody to make sure that they're all healthy come September and October when we really need it. Because we saw this year, we were all fine with, Judge missing a few days here and there if it meant he was going to stay healthy throughout the course of the season. And he did, and he was an MVP caliber player. And the same goes for Giancarlo Stanton. So I think that's definitely going to help. As for Florial, I would love for him to get a shot, but I think at this point it's clear as day they don't view him as that guy.
Yeah,
which sucks because he's got a lot to offer and he's still very young.
There is a bit of a logjam in the outfield when you start peeling it back a little bit. Especially you have Gallo, Judge, Stanton, Hicks, possibly Florial, and who knows what's going on with Gardner once business starts up again. So you got Dominguez in the wings. That's going to be a few years away. So you don't want to log up, you don't want to jam up with a big contract in the outfield and not, play games with Dominguez like they are with Florial. And I know they're two different type of players, but just, there's no room at the end. We saw that with, Tachman got moved. Frazier's gone. So your outfield depth, you trimmed it a little bit, but it's still you're going to see a big rotation in the outfield.
Well, the worst part about the outfield for me is that it's not very athletic, personally. I know that Gallo is a very good defensive player, and so is Aaron Judge, but Stanton's fine, but, you worry about his legs. You worry about Judge's
I'm not worried about his legs.
Playing right field every day.
He did fine once he was playing in the outfield every day. You even saw
but the Yankees are worried about it. The Yankees have been worried about it for a long time.
They don't know what they're doing.
So, I'm a big Stanton fan. There's no question about it. I'm just saying that the Yankees are worried about his legs. And they're worried about Aaron Judge's health long term. Playing every day in right field too. So got to consider that. Aaron Hicks is unhealthy. He's just never healthy, so he's not really an option for me. Brett Gardner, he's a fifth outfielder at this stage of his career, even if that. And Florial, they don't trust Florial. So yeah, there's a logjam, but apart from right field, there's a lot of question marks. Center field needs to be addressed, and left field, I'm not even totally sold on Gallo. I never have been. I don't think that. I know I'm old school, so I kind of sound like the old guy, get off my lawn kind of a thing. Certainly, I'm not gonna apologize for it. I'm an old school baseball fan. I believe in batting average. I believe in hitting to all fields. I don't like Aaron Hicks as a player. I've never liked him as a player. I just think that he's a little soft for me. He's a little coddled, which is a big thing for this Yankee organization. But I would certainly like a younger center fielder to come in that can hit for a higher average and, strike out less. I like that, So the rumors of us going for that Japanese guy, I'd like that because he's one of those kind of guys where he can hit for average a little bit more. He draws walks, doesn't strike out much. I'm not a fan of strikeouts. I don't care.
They still annoy me. I know the analytics say, strikeout is just like an out. No, it's not.
Exactly.
I thought that was the dumbest sports argument I ever heard. One of.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, I guess. Because, we saw how many times last year I would take a strikeout over a double play. But that's just, a phenomenon that we had last year where we could not stop hitting to double plays.
Do you think that's something that's going to continue into this next season?
I would hope not.
Or was that just one of those? It was just one of those weird years that it just wasn't working. The ball just kept finding the infield.
I genuinely think they tried to change our hitters' approach because all we kept hearing was how the Yankees need to be more contact oriented, and we saw that. All of a sudden, they were not hitting for power, despite having all these power bats. All the launch angles were down. And I was like, there's something up. And it couldn't have just been the baseball and the spider tack. There was no way it was only affecting us. Like, I know baseball across the board, launch angles and stuff were down, but it seemed like the Yankees were at the top of that list in terms of the average launch angle. Like, Aaron Judge's launch angle was down. And that guy hits monster shots like left and right. Same with Stanton. And even Gleyber Torres, his launch angle was way down. And we're seeing him and hitting ground balls left and right. It's just everything seemed unusual. So I feel like they tried to hey, hit the ball on the ground a little bit more. And that's not what contact is. You know, everyone says the Yankees need more contact. That doesn't mean get the ball on the ground. That just means hit the ball. You know, that's what contact.
When you're in little league, you hit the ball where they ain't.
Hit it where they ain't.
They forgot how to do that last year.
I like that.
They hit it where they were. That's what they kept doing. We kept going from no outs and 2 guys on to 2 outs, and it was just very, very annoying. So in those situations, I would take a strikeout if it meant we got 2 more at bats or an extra at bat with runners on base instead of the double play to end the inning. But a strikeout is still very annoying because you want to see one of these guys make contact because you know what so many of our guys can do when they connect. Like when seeing Stanton strike out, you're like, you know what he can do if he hit the ball. It's going to go 500 feet the other way. So, strikeout is still very annoying, but in certain context, I would take a strikeout over a double play.
I don't think there's enough players like Rizzo. You know what Rizzo's approach is with runners in scoring position or with even if a runner on? Productive outs. If he has to make an out, he'll make sure that it's productive. You know, he'll move that runner over because he doesn't have a problem with 2 strikes choking up on the bat to make contact. And I know that that's not really taught in modern baseball, so I'm not really sure how the Yankees felt about that deep down, because they like their guys just going all out and hitting it out of the ballpark. That's their approach. That's what they like. But Rizzo is different. You know, with runners in scoring position, he's happy to choke up on the bat and take what the pitcher's giving him. If he can hit a single, then fine. If not, then he'll make sure it's a productive at bat. He'll move that runner over to second base if there's a runner at first and 2 outs, 1 out, and he'll that's the way that he kind of approaches at bats. And I like that. I think that's important, you certainly see, they adore Joey Gallo, but Joey Gallo's got I think it's 5 sac flies his entire career. So that for me is not someone that's a productive baseball player. I like guys that make productive outs. So that's what the Yankees dynasty was based on. Again, I'm the old guy shouting in the lawn again, but it works. I know that approach works because I saw it from the Atlanta Braves, most of the playoffs. And I've seen it multiple times work in the modern day. It can still work. There's still a place for it.
No, it goes. Gallo is pretty much the poster child of the new baseball mentality. It's either a strikeout, a walk, or a home run. Anything else, it's like, whatever. And that doesn't resonate to the need of what the Yankees need. It doesn't resonate to the needs of the Yankees. The Yankees need productive contact hitters. We already have Judge, Stanton, Sanchez. Let the 3 of them try to hit the ball, to Queens or to Boston. Let them try to hit the ball as far as they can. Put everybody around them with the ability to hit into the gap, and keep contact on the ball. Make the pitchers work, wear the pitchers down, so when those power guys come up, we can capitalize on that. That's what the Yankees mentality needs to be going into the season.
That's why I'm so upset with Gleyber Torres' decline last year, because that's the player that he should be. I want him in the leadoff spot, to be perfectly honest. I always viewed him as a leadoff hitter when he was coming up, because never did anyone talk about him being a 40 home run guy. And then he did it 2019 or whatever it was, where he hit 38 and you're like, oh, this guy is just another power hitter in the lineup. I don't want that. I always wanted Gleyber to be that 280 hitter. He can hit 20 or so because he's got that pop hitting in Yankee Stadium, but he always had the makings of that all fields kind of hitter. And you saw once he showed that flash of power at the major league level, they're like, okay, this is what we want you to be now. And it's just like, we have enough, like you said. And now, especially with Gallo in there and potentially Luke Voigt, we still don't know what first base is going to be. You have 5 pure power hitters in the lineup. So you need guys like Torres and Urshela and LeMahieu and whoever the heck is playing in center field to be those contact hitters, the guys that are going to get on base. So we do have too much reliance on power. I will say that. I know baseball is trending in that direction, so I understand why the Yankees are saying it's power or nothing. But you still need to get guys on base because you ain't winning that many games with solo home runs. It's just not going to happen. Guys need to get on base so the guys like Judge and Stanton can hit it out of the park. You'd rather drive in 3 on one swing than 1. It's just simple mathematics. There's nothing analytical about that. So, yeah.
Even another guy that would have made a great leadoff hitter going off his rookie year would have been Andujar if he didn't fall off as loud as he did. Because he was another one. I think he went through that his whole rookie year. I don't think he hit 100 strikeouts. He broke the record for the doubles, and he was hitting for, he had a little pop in his bat, and he also was another one where because if you don't hit 100, if you don't reach 100 strikeouts, you're definitely doing something right in today's today's world of baseball. So he was able to make contact, and that was something that we preached a lot last year. Just put the ball in play. And it's easier to be productive just putting the ball in play than just flailing at everything.
Yeah. The thing with Andujar is he got hurt. He lost his job because of an injury. Urshela coming up the way he did, no one saw it. Everyone's like, all right, well, he'll be a defensive guy and the Andujar is healthy, he'll come back. But Urshela just was like, no, I'm going to start hitting now. And then
even though his numbers dropped a little bit last year, I think he's going to get back into his rhythm this coming year. I think his offense he'll tick back on the upside. I don't think it was a fluke that he was able to hit like that.
No.
I'll never question Urshela. He's one of the few guys that showed that kind of heart that the Yankees need. The way that he dived into the stands like that. It was an unbelievable play. Showed a lot of heart. That was a big issue for me most of the year. There wasn't enough of good guys that showed that kind of heart and determination every night. So I'm a big fan of Urshela. I'd like to. I hope they keep him next year.
Yeah, I mean, unless the ball is hitting to the stands, you always feel like he can make that play.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's in the front row of the stand, well, now because of the netting, it's hot, but he'll dive into the net if he had to. And so, he plays all out, and we don't see that enough anymore.
I agree, really.
All right, that's going to wrap up today's discussion on the leadoff hitter. Just remember, real quick, I just want to rant for a quick second, because we were going to hopefully have today, after yesterday's meetings with the MLB and the MLB Players Association. They got nowhere. And you know what? My message to them is shame on you. You suck. And will you guys just get your freaking acts together and get this deal done? Because right now it is the 14th of January. We're a month away from pitchers and catches. And if you want to have a productive season from any ball player, you need those spring training games. You need to have the pitchers and catches. You got to get them all going. You are just going to push the sport back. You're going to hurt the sport. Get your ass in gear. Don't just sit at the table and don't move until you figure it out. Please. We're getting bored. We're all starting to, we want to talk about baseball. We want to talk about who's getting traded where, who's getting signed where, who's going to break the bank for the free agency. We're dying for those discussions, and they are not letting us have it.
No, you're right. Clowns. They're all clowns. Every single one of them. Can't stand them. Hate them both sides. And people are starting to take the players' sides here because the MLB wanted to raise the luxury tax like $4 million. I don't care. They're both clowns. They can all kick rocks. I'm so sick of them. It's a bunch of babies. And I sound like a baby whining about it, but I want baseball because I love the sport. But they're making me hate it every single day more and more. I cannot stand Manfred. I cannot stand Tony Clark. I hate them both, and I wish they were not associated with baseball anymore, but unfortunately they are. So like you just said, Tats, get your asses in gear and get this shit done because we're sick of it.
I'm with you guys on that. I don't like both sides. There's certain aspects of what the players' union are fighting for, which is obviously really important. Certainly, better living conditions for minor leaguers. These are the important things that need to be sorted out. And certainly make it a fair game in terms of economically for arbitration. You want younger players to get paid sooner. It's only right. They shouldn't be scrimping out for years on end as going on these arbitration salaries. So that needs to be sorted out sooner. Those are the two things that I support on what the players' union are saying. But I'm sorry, from what I read, the Manfred and the owners presented an offer. It seemed like it was reasonable, and it was completely rejected offhand. It wasn't even like considered, and I'm starting to think, what is it that the players' union actually want? I'm not even sure that they will even find any middle ground. I'm not convinced that they will, because I think they want everything, and that's not a good way to negotiate.
Because here's what
and I'll
doing.
never take don't get me wrong. I'll never take Manfred's side. I will never ever take Manfred's side. He is a cretin of a human being, an absolute despicable snake.
Here's the problem. Ron Manfred doesn't want to feel like he lost. Tony Clark doesn't want to feel like he lost. But who loses? We do, the fans.
That's it. There you go. Because that's what it is. I mean, I don't agree with either side. I think there's certain things there's certain aspects that I agree with. But the fact that there wasn't any negotiations to this point, there's been weeks since there was a lockout. So that's on both of them, And MLB presented an offer to the MLBPU yesterday, and it was rejected. It wasn't even considered. Again, that's on them. That's on the PU. That means that PU, Players Association, that's on them. You know what I mean? That's on them.
No, you were right. This whole thing just freaking stinks.
Yeah, it does stink. You're right. PU, they suck. The fact that they've just rejected it offhand, that's on them. So I think it's on both sides, and I felt that from last year when they squabbled over nonsense, and we only got a 60-game season, and so I think it's the same thing this year. I think both sides are terrible.
No, because they had the chance after the whole thing with 2020. They had the opportunity to be like, all right, look, this got really ugly and it really ticked the fans off. Why don't we just make sure that this doesn't happen again so quickly, where there's this much of a disparity and all these disagreements? And they totally botched that whole thing. So this is now, 2 off seasons in a row where the fans have just been put through torture.
Mm-hmm.
And it should not have happened. It really should. And the whole argument with 2020 shouldn't have happened. We've gone over that a million times.
Yeah.
But, they had the opportunity to say, you know what, it's a fans game. Let's just make sure that the fans have a game to watch. And I think
there's been 3 off seasons in a row now. Because obviously last year we had to stick with the horrible 7-inning nonsense. And the shortened games were terrible. And then the extra inning nonsense too. And so we had to stick with that because of Manfred. Right? So that was nonsense. And then the year before that, we had the 60-game nonsense. And then now we've got a lockout. So this has been 3 years of nonsense it's taken away from the game.
Exactly. And hopefully the next time they sit down, we at least get a little more productivity from both sides, and they stop acting like children. Just because you're running a child's game doesn't give you the right to act like children. Grow up.
Mic drop.
All right. Let's just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check us out and all the other great shows on sportnarium.com/player. Check out Sportswire Radio on Twitter. And actually, they do also now have a YouTube channel, so check out that. We will put the link to that in the description as well today. Just remember, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.